Hey there, and welcome to ChatGPT Mastery, the ultimate course on mastering ChatGPT and the world of artificial intelligence. I'm so excited to be here with you today, as we embark on a journey to explore the incredible world of artificial intelligence. This course is all about taking you from a beginner to a true expert in the field, equipping you with the knowledge that will allow you to work with ChatGPT and other AI tools in a wide range of applications. Whether you're a student, a professional, or just someone who's passionate about AI and its possibilities, this course is for you. The course contains a combination of both video and text lessons, each designed to cater to different learning styles. Some lessons are text only, and some are combined, depending on the lesson itself. Some sections are more practical, offering hands-on tutorials, while others provide a high level.
All right, you should have it now.
So what will you learn? We'll start by exploring the basics of ChatGPT, including how it works, how it's trained, and how it can be used to solve a wide range of real-world problems. From there, we'll dive into some of the most powerful and cutting-edge techniques and tools for working with it and maximizing its efficiency. You'll also enjoy some amazing bonuses, tips and tricks, and a lot of
What's up, man? You hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
All right, cool.
I'm ready.
All right. Let me do this. Let me do this. Let me do this. Next. Okay.
Once again, the world was facing a disruptive technological revolution. The Goldman Sachs Bank had published a report claiming that if generative AI lived up to its hype, around 300 million jobs would be lost or degraded in the United States and Europe. However, according to Goldman Sachs, automation would also create innovation, leading to new types of jobs, while companies would benefit from cost savings thanks to AI. In fact, deploying their resources toward building and growing businesses would ultimately increase annual global GDP by 7%. The growth of AI would mirror the trajectory of past computer and tech products, the report stated. AI had already shown its power and influence, as witnessed by the success of OpenAI software ChatGPT and DALL-E. Investments in global AI projects had boomed, reaching nearly $94 billion from 2021 to now. If AI continued this growth trajectory, it could add 1% to the US GDP by 2030. However, not everything was rosy. According to an academic research study published by the National Bureau of Economic Research, automation technology had been the primary driver of US income inequality over the past 40 years. Artificial intelligence, robotics, and new sophisticated technologies had caused a vast chasm in wealth and income inequality, which seemed to be accelerating. For now, college-educated white-collar professionals had largely been spared the same fate as non-college educated workers. People with a postgraduate degree saw their salaries rise, while low-education workers declined significantly. The real earnings of men without a high school degree were now 15% lower than they were in 1980. The report stated that many changes in the U.S. wage structure were caused by companies automating tasks that used to be done by people. This included numerically controlled machinery or industrial robots replacing blue-collar workers in manufacturing, or specialized software replacing clerical workers. Truck and cab drivers, cashiers, retail sales associates, and people who worked in manufacturing plants and factories had already been, and would continue to be, replaced by robotics and technology. Driverless vehicles, kiosks in fast food restaurants, and self-help, quick phone scans at stores would soon eliminate most minimum wage and low-skilled jobs. Other organizations and companies, such as the World Economic Forum, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and Wells Fargo, had also expressed their concerns about AI's impact on the workforce. They predicted that smart machines fueled by rapid advances in AI and robotics could potentially replace a large proportion of existing human jobs, contributing up to $15 trillion to global GDP by 2030. However, it would come with a high human cost, and there were concerns that it could displace many existing jobs. Oliver Wyman, a management consulting firm, claimed that the world's most advanced cities were not ready for the disruptions of artificial intelligence, and over 50 million Chinese workers may require retraining as a result of AI-related deployment. The US would be required to retool 11.5 million people in America with the skills needed to survive in the workforce. Millions of workers in Brazil, Japan, and Germany would need assistance with the changes wrought by AI, robotics, and related technology. As AI continued to develop, the report warned of the possible loss of jobs in a variety of sectors, from office administrative support, legal, architecture and engineering, business and financial operations, management, sales, healthcare, and art and design. While AI proponents claimed that there was nothing to worry about, as we had always successfully dealt with new technologies, the report raised concerns about the quality of jobs in the future.
Oh man, you get that?
Yep, AI taking over.
Yeah, fundamentally,
So
that's
we got to catch up.
so within that takeover. That's why it's imperative that we get an understanding of basic aspects of how to utilize it as a tool in a lot of different areas, right? It's not just about being aware of it. It's how can your being aware of it help facilitate you being involved with it in some way by acquiring some skills associated with it and actually doing that for all of these millions of businesses that are going to be looking to utilize AI within their businesses, and they need people that have an understanding of AI. Feel me? So that's what we was talking about when we talk about prompt engineering, etc. So I'm going to share something with you. Okay. The one that have, okay, here we go. Go back to Zoom, do the share thing. Okay, hit that one right there. Hit that right there. Hit that right there. And then hit.
Fascinating world of prompts. It's time to learn what are they and how they can enhance your conversations with ChatGPT. In this first lesson, we'll explore how important it is to frame your questions or requests for ChatGPT in a way that leads to fruitful discussions. You're probably asking yourself, what are prompts? So I want you to think of prompts as magical spells that unlock ChatGPT's full potential. Good prompts can keep the conversation focused, relevant, and informative. It's a clear and specific question or statement that you give ChatGPT so it can respond accordingly, just like you would instruct your kid or pet. For instance, you could tell ChatGPT to tell me a joke, or what's the weather today, or create a story about a dragon. Then ChatGPT will provide a relevant response or action. But the way you ask ChatGPT to converse with you can have a significant impact on how well the conversation flows. When you provide precise and specific prompts, it helps ChatGPT stay on track and ensures that it covers the topics you're interested in, making the experience more enjoyable and beneficial for you. So, how can you craft good prompts that lead to intriguing and informative conversations? Here are a few things to keep in mind. First of all, clarity is key. Ensure that your prompts are clear and easy to understand for ChatGPT, avoiding difficult or confusing words. Be specific in your prompts to help ChatGPT know exactly what you want and provide the best response possible. For instance, instead of using complex terms like anecdote or felines, use simple language like joke or cats to make your prompt clearer and more effective. Next, focus on a particular goal or objective when giving prompts to ChatGPT. Avoid broad and open-ended prompts that can lead to scattered and aimless conversations. Instead, Provide clear and direct prompts to help ChatGPT generate the most helpful and targeted response. For example, instead of giving a general prompt like "talk to me about cooking," you can give a specific and focused prompt like, "Can you recommend a vegetarian lasagna recipe with mushrooms?" This prompt has a clear goal in mind, helping ChatGPT provide a more effective and targeted response. Lastly, ensure that your prompts are relevant to the conversation. Avoid bringing up random topics that have nothing to do with the current discussion, as this can be confusing and less enjoyable. For example, if you're discussing cooking with ChatGPT, it would be relevant to ask for a chicken parmesan recipe instead of asking for the capital of France. By applying these principles, you can craft effective prompts for ChatGPT that lead to engaging and informative conversations. In the next chapters, we'll delve into these principles further and explore specific techniques for creating clear and concise prompts.
Damn. Oh man.
Was that a prompt phone?
That was I think that was Dolores and them. When she came in, she was on some kind of
That was
conversation.
part of the video.
Yeah. That would have been crazy if it was. Okay.
Yeah, I do some different stuff.
Bam. 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 There you go.
Crafting ChatGPT prompts that work well and provide helpful responses takes careful thought and attention. However, there are some common mistakes that can hinder the effectiveness of your prompts. Here are some mistakes to avoid. First, overloading the prompt with too much information. Sometimes people make the mistake of giving too much information in their questions to ChatGPT. This can make it hard for the AI to understand what the conversation is about. For example, instead of asking, "Can you help me find a good recipe for a cake with chocolate chips, and also tell me how to make sure it doesn't come out dry?" it's better to break it up into two questions. Can you suggest a good recipe for a cake with chocolate chips? And how can I ensure my cake doesn't come out dry? Second, using jargon or ambiguous language. When talking to ChatGPT, it's important to use language that it can easily understand. Avoid using complex words or phrases that could confuse the AI. For example, instead of saying, "I'm feeling really despondent today," it's better to say, "I'm feeling really down today." Third, being too vague or open-ended. Asking broad or vague questions like, "Tell me about everything," can make it difficult for ChatGPT to provide helpful responses. Instead, try to ask more specific questions that will guide the conversation in a focused direction. For example, instead of asking, "What do you think about dogs?" it's better to ask, "What are the benefits of having a dog as a pet?" Fourth, neglecting to include necessary instructions or constraints. It's important to give clear instructions to ChatGPT so that it knows what to talk about. For example, if you want to have a conversation about a specific movie or book, be sure to mention that in your prompt. Otherwise, ChatGPT might not be able to provide the responses you're looking for. To avoid these mistakes and ensure that your ChatGPT prompts are effective, try these strategies. Use specific, targeted questions instead of open-ended ones. Asking targeted questions can help guide the conversation in a specific direction and provide more helpful responses. For example, instead of asking, "What do you think about art?" try asking, "What do you think about the use of color in Impressionist paintings?" Be concise and to the point. Avoid including unnecessary details or instructions in your prompts. Stick to the essential information and avoid rambling or digressing from the main topic. For example, instead of asking, "Can you tell me about the history of the United States from the colonial period to the present day?" it's better to ask, "Can you tell me about the causes and outcomes of the American Civil War?" Use clear, concise language. Choose your words carefully and avoid using jargon or ambiguous language. Be sure to use language that is easy for ChatGPT to understand. For example, instead of saying, "I need to enhance my vocabulary," it's better to say, "I need to improve my vocabulary." Test and debug your prompts. It's important to test and debug your prompts to ensure they are clear and effective. Reset the conversation thread and start from the beginning to identify and troubleshoot any issues. For example, if you're not getting helpful responses, try rephrasing your prompt or asking a more specific question. By avoiding common mistakes and following these strategies, you can help to ensure that your ChatGPT prompts are clear, concise, and effective, and that the conversation flows smoothly and naturally.
Was that kind of jive clear? I would assume so.
Yeah, it was. Be concise. Don't use big words. Be
Yep.
to the point. And clear and to the point.
Okay.
Avoid open-ended questions.
Uh-huh. And see, all of these
Be
things are
specific.
things. Yep, definitely. That's where the frameworks that we talked about come into play too. Let's see if I can. Go here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
As we have learned, the importance of well-defined ChatGPT prompts cannot be overstated. By following the tips and best practices outlined in this section, you can craft effective prompts that help you to get the most out of ChatGPT and use it responsibly and ethically. Now that you have a better understanding of the importance of well-defined ChatGPT prompts and the techniques for crafting effective prompts, you may be wondering what your next steps should be for mastering this art. Here are a few suggestions for how you can continue to improve your skills. Practice, practice, practice. The more you use ChatGPT and experiment with different prompts, the better you will become at crafting effective ones. Seek feedback from others. Ask friends or colleagues to review your prompts and provide constructive criticism. This can help you to identify areas for improvement and refine your skills. Keep learning. Look for examples of successful ChatGPT prompts in the next sections of the course, or ask other ChatGPT users for advice and tips. You can also join online communities or forums dedicated to ChatGPT to learn from others and share your own experiences. Experiment with different styles and approaches. Don't be afraid to try new things and see what works best for you. You may find that certain techniques or approaches are more effective for certain types of conversations. Stay up to date on the latest developments in ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. As technology continues to evolve, so too will the capabilities of ChatGPT. By staying informed about the latest advances, you can ensure that you are using the best techniques and approaches for your ChatGPT prompts. By following these steps and continuing to learn and improve your skills, you can become a master at crafting effective ChatGPT prompts and get the most out of this powerful tool.
All right, that was just a general overview, right? As a refresher about what we talked about earlier when we talked about prompts, and the reason that is good to understand how to do the frameworks, because the frameworks allow you to understand specifically how to use prompts as a means by which to get a desired result by putting it in a framework where you, as a prompt engineer, if that was what you were doing, consulting a business, you would have frameworks with which to work with a specific business. And one of the, I think I showed y'all 6, there's actually 9 frameworks that we primarily deal with, right? When you're talking about applying ChatGPT to your business or any other business. And the more you understand about the frameworks, the more you're prepared to effectively use ChatGPT in your own business, right? So when we talk about those frameworks, I think yesterday we just touched on a couple, but let's say, if I remember correctly, we did go over the 6 ones that we talked about at the beginning, which was action, purpose, and expectation. And then we talked about role, action, context, expectation. Then we talked about tag, which was task, action, and goal. And we talked about rise, role, input, steps, and expectation. And last but not least, we talked about trace, which was task, request, action, context, and example. So since we mentioned that now, let me go back and refresh your memory. Your task is to create an engaging email marketing campaign. That's, in fact, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go to ChatGPT. Go to my ChatGPT. Where is it? I know I know what I gotta do first. I gotta pull it up. Because it's on the same page. ChatGPT. Let's put this to the, and let me go here. Now let me share. Let's have some fun right quick. Okay. So let's see. Your task is to create an engaging email marketing campaign. And then the request. Can you assist in the development, of compelling, how to type up, be all right. Okay. Compelling subject lines. And body copy. Okay. We need you to draft a few examples of these. Okay. Let's see. Oh, this context. No. Yeah. This context is our, okay, I say context is our upcoming month of the year clearance sale. Targeting existing customer base. Example, a successful real world example was Barbie Parker's your prescription is expiring campaign. Your Description is expiring campaign. It leveraged man. Yeah, what did I do? Cancel. Your prescription is expiring campaign. It leveraged, that's right. It leveraged. It leveraged. Leveraged and automated. Email alert. No, it leveraged an automated email that alerted customers that their prescription was about to expire. That alerted customers that their, hey darling.
Did this come like this, or did somebody go in and eat some of it?
Oh, that's how it came.
Yeah,
They
piece.
only gave you one piece of
They
chicken.
don't give you a whole leg? Like,
They'd be tripping.
oh wow, but I wasn't gonna eat it.
Yeah,
It
that's
looked like somebody ate out.
no, it didn't.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. That their email. What did I say? That their prescription. Okay, alerted customers that their prescription. Their prescription was about to expire. And urged them to get a new one. Urged to okay, let's see what happened here. Oh, it's writing. All right, I'm hoping y'all can see that, right? Okay, let's see what it did from that one prompt that gave it task, request, action, context, and example. Okay, so that was my question, or that was my prompt. And then it said, absolutely, I'd be glad to help draft some engaging email subject lines and body copy for your end of the year clearance sale. Drawing inspiration from successful campaigns like Warby Parker's, we can create a sense of urgency and personal touch in our messaging. Here are a few examples. Okay. Email subject line 1, TikTok, your exclusive access to once a year deals ends soon. Okay. Email body 1, hello customer, as the year draws to a close, so does the chance to snag unbeatable deals, blah, blah, blah. VA page like you offering first dibs. Warm regards. Okay. Email subject line 2, end the year on a high note, exclusive savings inside. What better way wrapped up the year than blah, blah, blah. So it created that. Subject line number 3, and then an email. And then it said each of these examples aims to evoke excitement and a sense of urgency, encouraging your existing customer base to take action before it's too late. Feel free to adjust the tone and content to match your brand's voice and the specific products or services you offer. Oh, that was rather quick. Any questions? Hello? I'm assuming ain't no questions.
I don't have any.
Okay. Oh, Dolores, I have a question. Okay, so
What is it, sir?
my question is, do you see how this could help you create your emails for your situation?
Yeah. You
Have
know,
you,
I did one. I just posted it the other day.
so you use ChatGPT to do your email?
Not to email, just to post something on Facebook.
Okay, so okay, cool.
Not, I didn't, it wasn't an email.
Right, but it was a some
It
marketing,
was an advertisement, really.
yeah, ad, right?
A marketing piece.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. So you're using it now. So
Yes.
basically, in a nutshell, what you may want to consider is, since you can do things so fast, right? Because that saves you time, which in saving you time, it saves you money. And in the saving you money, you actually can make more money.
Correct.
Right. And that's strictly from business application. I'm gonna share an interview with y'all, which is from one of the top minds in the marketing space as to what he had to say. And these are the type of things that I listen to enhance my ability to understand how to effectively utilize ChatGPT, and not only ChatGPT, but other AI applications. So what I do when I come across these things, I send it to myself. And then I go back and I review it, and then I get it, listen to it till I understand it, and then I go from there. So I'm sharing a lot of secrets with y'all here. I hope you use them. Oh, let me say sent. If I can find it. Okay.
Not skilled with AI. And that really is the essence of what's.
Okay, hold up.
Are you hearing why?
Okay. This is something. Okay, here you go. This is what I want y'all to hear.
We should be smart enough, those of us that are listening to this.
Okay. And then zoom. And then, okay. And then share. AI. Share that. Make it big. And then bam.
It keeps getting shorter and shorter and shorter. But if you go back, a couple hundred.
Let's go right here.
Be more productive, where in the past they had to hire out and there was a limited supply. I'm curious what your thoughts are on all that.
That is very much the case for smaller, more nimble organizations. My company, Trust Insights, we're 3 people. We carry a client load that should normally require 20 to 25 people to run, because so much of our work is done by machines, both regular programming and AI. And so for those companies, those organizations that are nimble and that have technical talent to make the tools work better and faster together, yes, they will have multiplier effects to make them punch above their weight. For larger companies, I think you will see more of that sort of the downsizing effect, where you'll see, okay, we can get efficiencies within these companies that reduce the number of total people needed. And so it will definitely change the competitive landscape. And if you're a marketer, I think the best expression I've heard of this is AI is not going to take your job.
a person skilled with AI is going to take the job of a person who is not skilled with AI. And that really is the essence of what's happening. If you are skilled with these tools, you are a more valuable employee, right? You can do more stuff. You can do stuff faster. You can do stuff at a better minimum level of quality versus somebody who is not. And that is probably what the roadmap for an individual person is. So if you're thinking like, oh my gosh, what's this going to do to my career? You have a mandate to at least get familiar with and learn these tools.
Yeah, and this is whenever disruptive technology comes out, this has happened with the internet when it first came out, learning HTML and learning how to do website coding. And then eventually with social media, understanding how to create content on the social platforms and game, quote unquote, the algorithms and create content. Now the challenge is the pace at which it's happening is extremely fast. Would you agree with that?
Oh, for sure. Think about this. We had computers in 1955. 30 years later, we had personal computers, right? 15 years later, we had smartphones. 10 years later, we're now getting into things like artificial intelligence. So the span of time which we have to adapt, it keeps getting shorter and shorter and shorter. But if you go back, a couple hundred years, and you look at the Industrial Revolution, you went from having 50 people in a field working to today, one farmer driving this massive combine that's GPS, powered and all stuff. He's sitting there listening to podcasts as his machine's just going up and down fields. There is still a farmer as a role, as a job in society, but that farmer's job today looks very different than it did 300 years ago.
Yeah. So the good news is we should be smart enough. Those of us that are listening to this we've lived through these waves of technological innovation, right? Especially those of us that are a little more gray haired, right? We've seen what it was like before the internet. We now know we're entering into this new era. Nothing ever lasts forever. And that's why we do these kinds of shows, so that you who are listening can embrace this change and hopefully become more valuable to your prospects, your company, your clients, ... So I think that's a good transition into exploring some of the different use cases that you see today specifically. Start wherever you want to start with AI use cases.
I think for marketers and for everybody, you need to understand sort of the 6 fundamental use cases within generative AI, right? And particularly with large language models like those with ChatGPT, Bard, Bing, et cetera. Those use cases are generation, extraction, summarization, rewriting, question answering, and classification. Let's talk through each of these. So generation, everybody knows. That is, hey, write me a blog post about Instagram tips, right? And the machines will spit that out. And the better your prompt is, which is the plain English code that you are writing, the better the results you'll get from generation. Machines are good at generation. They're not great at it. They're good. The second category, which I think is really where they start to shine, is extraction. Say I take 1 million tweets, right? And I just have this data. I can write a prompt that says extract the Twitter handles from these tweets and compile them into a list. And a model like GPT-4 will do that and will present it in the format that I want. Extract some email addresses from this PDF and so on and so forth. These tools are very capable of extracting data out. The third use case is summarization. This is one of my favorites. Summarization is you tell these machines, summarize this. For example, this podcast episode, take the transcript from this podcast episode and summarize it. Tell me the 5 most important things that Chris and Mike talked about, and it will spit out those things. My best favorite use case of this is I use a piece of software called Otter, which is audio transcription software. If you go to trustedsites.ai/Otter, you can see the whole thing of stuff. It's real simple. You get a raw transcript. Now, of course, a lot of what we say as in speech is not grammatically correct. It's not polished. There's a lot of and all those things. And that shows up in transcripts. You then take that transcript, give it to a service like ChatGPT and say, rewrite this to be grammatically correct. Right? And suddenly that random foaming at the mouth you had is clean. Or maybe it's a conference call you had with the client. You say, summarize this into meeting notes and action items. And boom, instead of having a virtual assistant you're paying or clerical staff you're paying, now you're just having a machine do this. I just did this earlier today with a client call. And they gave me my 5 action items from that call, put them right into my to-do list program, and boom, I took that 45-minute client call, and within literally a minute and a half, I distilled it down and I was ready to start my workday. So summarization is really one of those very powerful things. The fourth area that they're really good at is rewriting content. This is again, for taking a voice call where you're kind of rambling and having it rewrite that into something that sounds better is an easy use case. One, I actually just put this up on LinkedIn the other day, and it's actually like 500,000 people have shared it. It's crazy. I had this very terse note from Karen in accounting to Bob saying, Bob, the 2 months of invoices you left on my desk aren't done. They're not going to get done anytime soon because you can't just do that. Bunch of profanity. And tell Bob, oh, go F off. And then the prompt says, rewrite this email in a professional tone of voice. And it comes out, Bob, dear Bob, I regret to inform you that, very formal professional tone.
Yeah.
It's a rewrite. So if you are the kind of person who maybe you don't have a lot of confidence in your writing, but you have a lot of confidence in your ideas, you can use these tools to do this. There's a great use case of a person who wrote an app for a smartphone. He works with construction contractors, and his one friend was dyslexic, very severely dyslexic, and would write very terse, kind of confused emails to clients, and clients were not appreciative of it. He made this app. This app did exactly that, took those terse directions and reformatted it to a formal business email. And now clients are very happy with that. So rewriting, very powerful. You can even do silly stuff like take the blog post that accompanies this episode and rewrite it in Sumerian, right? Or emoji. These tools are capable of that. The fifth area that is powerful is classification. So again, as we were talking about earlier, if you have a bunch of, say, tweets or emails in your social media monitoring software, or maybe you even have podcast episodes you want to listen to from the past, you could have these tools say, identify the top 3 topics this episode is about, and then you can sort through those listings and go, okay, I want to listen to these episodes. I could classify tweets by sentiment. Is this a positive sentiment, negative sentiment? What kind of social media comment is this? Is this a complaint? Is it a question? So these tools are very good at doing that kind of classification. And the last one, and this is where there's major change happening, is question answering. These tools are very capable of answering questions. Now, they do have limits. For example, OpenAI's family of tools have a time horizon limit. They don't know anything after September of 2021. Microsoft's Bing, Google's Bard, they don't have those limitations. They are using search engine data to power them. But they can answer very complex questions that you might not get a concise answer out of a traditional search engine. For example, say that you suspect someone of corporate espionage at your company. You could ask with these tools, I suspect someone of corporate espionage, but I don't have any evidence. Help me put together an action plan of, an outline of things I can do lawfully and legally to potentially identify this. And these tools will come up with that. You can ask them questions like, what really works on Instagram in the fashion industry? And it will give you, some decent answers. Particularly with what was recently announced with, again, Bing and Bard, and even now ChatGPT's web browsing extension, these tools are starting to replace traditional search engines. I emphasize starting to. It's, by no means has the world switched over to this, but for complex, complicated questions, these tools are really good. And even for inferences, things that you wouldn't think to ask a search engine. For example, one of my favorite little tricks just for around the house is I'll write out a menu for the week of the things I'm cooking for dinner, and I'll say to one of the models, based on the list of these dishes, put together a probable grocery list for me, and it'll spit out all the ingredients for all the dishes, with quantities. Like, okay, great, now I can go to the grocery store. I don't have to, spend 20 minutes going, look up this recipe. What do I need to buy? Nope, just the tool gives me a good enough list that I can go shopping and save a lot of time. Those 6 categories of use cases apply to everything in marketing, apply to everything in social media, apply to everything in customer care. They're super, super powerful. And that's where marketers will see a lot of benefits.
So, when you're talking marketers, you're talking business. When you're talking business, you're talking about your ability to inspire, cultivate, and get people engaged so that they even take a look at what you're offering. Right? So since we don't have no real questions, then let me see. What's the other thing right quick? Yeah, here you go.
What that means from a content marketing perspective is exactly the same thing.
Okay, so screen content and share.
It is not about whether we should write 10 blog posts or whether the blog posts should be listicles or whether they should be these kinds of things or those kinds of things or whether we should be trying for organic reach. The strategy itself is how are we fitting together the operation of content as a strategic function in our business so that all those activities work together. As I've said, I mean, maybe too cutely, it's your tweetable moment, I suppose, is that the job of a great strategic content team is not to be good at content, it's to make the business good at content.
Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Robert Rose. If you don't know who Robert is, you need to know Robert. He is content strategist and author of the book Content Marketing Strategy, Harness the Power of Your Brand's Voice. He's also the founder of the Content Advisory, a consultancy that helps brands develop their content strategy. And he's co-host of one of my favorite podcasts, the This Old Marketing Podcast. Robert, welcome back to the show. How are you doing today?
I am so good, my friend. It is so great to be back with you. It has been far, far too long.
Yes, well, I'm excited to have you here today. Robert and I are going to explore content marketing strategy in the age of this AI world that we're in right now. Now, my question, and we're going to get into AI stuff a little bit later in the interview, but sure. My question is content marketing strategy. Right. Talk to me about strategy, right? And why strategy is so important, because I believe, and I bet you believe this to be the case as well, that a lot of people just publish content and there's absolutely no strategy. So why ought we have strategy? Robert, talk to us a little bit.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, because, you know, they always say, you know, you should come to a book and writing a book with a big question rather than a big answer. Right. And so the question was, you know, does the world need another book about content marketing? Really? Does it really need one? And the answer was no, of course. So what I wanted to write a book about was all of the books that I'd seen out there, including, by the way, my others, had been about the first two words, right? Either content or marketing, and not really about strategy. And so I lean heavily on my, you know, certainly one of my virtual mentors, as it were, Michael Porter, the amazing business professor and thought leader in the space, on his definition of strategy, meaning what are the activities that we fit together in a business to create competitive advantage? And so it basically, what are the things that we do? In other words, the people, the activities that those people do, and the actual output of those activities. What are those things and how do we fit them together? Because as he talks about, the idea of a competitive advantage in strategy is either doing different activities than your competitors or doing the same activities in a completely different way. And at the heart of it, that's what we're thinking about when we think about doing content marketing, whether you're a team of one and a solopreneur, or you're a team of thousands and you're trying to integrate into a broader marketing strategy. Content marketing activities, the things that we do, are fundamentally different. So I wanted to really talk about all of the things that we've seen over the last decade of working with as many companies as we have, in terms of the things that they're doing differently, the ways that they're operating like a media company, the ways that they're creating workflow and governance and the technologies and the ways that they're creating charters for their teams. That's the heart of a great content marketing strategy, which has nothing to, or little to do with the actual content that we're creating on a day-by-day basis.
You know, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, because I think so many people use the word strategy and really mean tactics, right? So
that's right, yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about the distinguishing differences from your perspective between a tactic and a strategy.
So the tactic is basically the things that we do that ultimately have an outcome that move us toward the plan or the objective that we have, right? So the strategy is how are we going to fit all of those things together? In other words, all of the things that we know we need to do, the individual jobs, the tasks, the things, the projects, the initiatives that we need to put into play, those are all the tactical things that we'll need to do in order to meet some broader objective. The strategy is, what are all those things? What's the forest? Basically, how are we building the overarching plan in order to fit together all of those things so that they work together? That is the true nature of a strategy, is how are we fitting all those small pieces together so that they're not siloed? One of the things that I notice so often these days in business, and this goes for marketing strategy when we think about it, is we're so focused on the individual tactics at the individual team level. What is the social media team doing? What is the content team doing? What's the demand gen team doing? And they all have their various tactics for how they make their little world a little better or perform a little higher or do whatever they need to do. But they don't fit together with what everybody else is doing. And a classic example of this is when two teams are creating content for two separate channels, and they're actually weirdly competing for the same audience. They're competing for the same part of the buyer's journey. They're competing for the same eyeballs and attention. And so they not only don't work together, but they work against each other. And so that's the clear indication that there's no strategy, even if the tactics themselves may actually be pretty smart.
Okay, this is not part of my original questions, but I think is a relevant next question for me to ask you is, who ought to be the strategist, right? Because depending on the size of the organization, there might not be any clear, obvious strategist. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's a team sport, I would say, because that's the whole nature of what we're doing in a business, is that it is a collection of people trying to work toward a common objective. And not to lean too heavily again on another mentor, but Peter Drucker, who said the only difference between the social groups that we think of as social groups and a business is that a business's objective is to create customers. So it's a social group directed to build customers. And so it's a collaborative effort. But ultimately, if there's, usually I would say a decider, or at least a couple of deciders. And whether that's your CEO or your CMO, your head of marketing, or literally, the receptionist, it doesn't matter. Just somebody needs to actually own the idea of coming up with the overarching set of objectives and the plan in order to get there, so that the tactics themselves can be sort of conjoined in a smart way.
I think so much about the fact that I try to be a strategist. It's my number one strength on Strength Finders. And it's kind of the way that I find myself defaulting, which is to try to connect the bigger things together and see how they all intertwine, like you mentioned earlier. But I also find myself oftentimes listening to a podcast, not unlike this podcast, where I get somebody on here and they talk about this incredible tactic that they've utilized to generate some really great response, right? Maybe it's like a short form video process, or maybe it's like Facebook ads to generate more leads. And I find myself really getting excited about that. And then just wanting to go out and do all the work related to creating that one thing. And then I find myself doing it again and again and again, right? And we were talking when we were prepping for this that this seems to be one of the big problems that a lot of people struggle with when it comes to content marketing. Is that true? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. I think what you've outlined is completely accurate, right? So strategy is not the vision, and it's not the tactics. It's the thing that is in between, which is, so I would consider myself a strategist as well, because I'm not a visionary guy. I've never been sort of the big vision, sort of, this is what I see in the future of the world. What I'm really good at is someone tells me a vision and I can tell you the roadmap, or I can build the logical and effective plan and roadmap for getting there. And so I'm neither a tactician, like I can't tell you interesting things about how to do SEO better, or how to do email marketing better, or how to do those kinds of things. I have long depended on the experts in those tactical areas for the expert advice that I need. And I'm not a visionary, but I'm the guy who can bring those things together into an overarching set of activities and plans that pull it together. So in my mind, I'm a strategist. Now, what that means from a content marketing perspective is exactly the same thing. It is not about whether we should write 10 blog posts or whether the blog posts should be listicles or whether they should be these kinds of things or those kinds of things or whether we should be trying for organic reach.
All right, I'm skip.
Let's spend a few minutes talking about how AI could alter our content strategy and what your thoughts are on AI when it comes to content and strategy and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, it's a big topic, and one that so many people are talking about. I mean, you can't, you throw a rock that hits somebody who's now an AI consultant for you.
Right.
And teaching you how to prompt better. And what we've been saying is that, and all the data that I've seen in the research are really showing this. So a year in, the hype level is high. The actual execution at the business side is still relatively low. In other words, everybody's talking about it, but there are really very few companies that are actually really doing it. And a lot of that
When you say doing it, why don't you clarify what you mean by it?
I mean actually using AI-oriented tools to drive better content strategies or marketing strategies, right? So there's a lot of experimentation going on. There's a lot of like, hey, let's play around with ChatGPT, or let's play around with Bard, or let's play around with this and see what happens. And in so many cases, at least our experience and the clients that we deal with, mid-sized and large organizations, what we're finding is that there's still a lot of really, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of doubt around what generative AI specifically is really going to bring. And a lot of that fear, uncertainty, and doubt comes from the hype, comes from the missteps that have been sort of hyped up in the rollout, the things like accuracy and are we actually stealing content or are we scraping content, and there's copyright issues and there's legal issues and there's all kinds of things that have yet to be settled. So what we're finding is that there's still a lot of trepidation in terms of making it a thing, like to our very earliest part of our conversation, like making it an integrated part of our strategy for developing marketing as a set of activities. Having said that, what we've been talking about is for those that are looking for AI readiness, like what does it mean to be AI ready, and start building that roadmap for what your team looks like. At its heart, this is a content strategy. And what I mean by that is that the biggest problem that we see in the experimentation is that nobody knows whether they're improving anything. In other words, should we fire our writers? Should we not? Will our writers be 30% more effective, or will they not? Will we be doing things that we're not going to be doing? Nobody knows. Because why? Because there's no existing content strategy or no existing process or set of documented activities. In other words, we haven't done the work, the core work of creating a content strategy to know what processes would be improved with the insertion or injection of generative AI as a thing. So all we know is that, yeah, I can do stuff that I didn't do before, or I can actually do things better than I can do before, but I don't really know what I'm getting myself into. And it's funny because we've worked with a couple of clients that have done this sort of, content strategy work vis-a-vis a AI readiness sort of initiative. And the interesting thing is, after we did all of the content strategy work, after we did all the use cases, what we found was AI is extremely powerful, but it was actually going to add work and add the need for additional resources to their content team, not take any away, because it had all these amazing capabilities like persona research and topic research and the kinds of interactive things that we can do for derivative content and all the wonderful things that you've heard of. But these are things that they weren't doing before. And it wasn't going to save them any time in coming up with great ideas. It was going to come up with some interesting new capabilities that they would have in understanding what those right ideas were and how they might approach it to different personas. But that's work that they weren't doing before. So it's actually adding hours to their day, not necessarily taking hours away, which could be a great thing. So the key is that we have to look at what the profitability is going to be of injecting AI, not just what, stuff it can replace. Because if we only look at it as the stuff that we can replace, you're going to be very disappointed with the results.
Thank you for that. One of the questions I've got related to this is, do you believe, like I believe, and of course this is a weighted question, that AI,
leading the witness,
that AI is going to force some of our old strategies to be reconsidered because of patterns that are happening with declining search traffic because of everybody's getting their answers better from ChatGPT than they ever got from Google, ... right? So like, like talk to me about that side of it, because I do want to wake some of our audience up to the actual, like, you got to get this figured out kind of thing, because it's changing and you may not even be aware of it, right?
It's a great point. No, it's such a great point. And I think the honest answer there is I don't know how it's going to change, but we can know pretty fundamentally that it's going to change. I literally this week, I don't know if you've been on it for some time, you tend to be a little ahead of these things than I do, but I literally this week got invited to the Google search engine, sort of, I guess they're calling it a beta test or whatever, where AI is now included in your Google search results. And so every time I do a search now, I get the AI answer at the top of the search page, and I get then the classic Google results underneath it. And it's fascinating when the research results come in, you can see the AI sort of working at the top. And then normally where there would be paid, sort of ads, there's that sort of now knowledge graph, that's coming in via the, via the Bard, I'm assuming, and basically providing the answer to my question. And I'm finding very mixed results in terms of the, accuracy or value of that information. And it's a fascinating thing to me. And so the real key here is questions in terms of our strategy going forward. It's a very different use case. It's a very different use case for search and what we have come to believe over the last 20 years of what search really means, which, one of my earliest product developments was a site search, was website search back in the early, believe it or not, kids, we actually used to develop site search engines because Google didn't allow you to do that. But hey, so we actually developed site search. And one of the lessons that I really learned there was the difference between when you search a website or an intranet versus when you're searching the internet, right? The use case is slightly different. When you're searching the internet, what you want is to maximize the amount of answers that you get. You want to maximize the breadth of answers that you get, because what you want as a consumer of that information is breadth of information so that you can select what you think is the best choice. When you're questioning an intranet or when you're questioning a website, what you want is the answer. Like I don't want a range of answers. I want the answer because I have a very specific thing that I'm looking for in that intranet or in that digital asset management repository or in that website. And so that's the key difference between the use case of Google search as we know it today and ChatGPT. And I can see this happening even in my sort of outside baseball audience, meaning my wife and my family and how they're using it, right? So if they want an answer to something, what are the side effects of XYZ drug? They're asking ChatGPT. They're going, what are the side effects? And they're getting an answer. But if they want, like, what's the best Mexican restaurant in San Diego, they go to Google and search for it and get, sort of a list of answers because they want the breadth of answers there. Very different use case. However, from a content perspective, from a marketing perspective, what it means is the same thing. We have to be the answer. We have to be the source of interesting, engaging things so that we become part of the learning model that answers the question for our consumers, and that hopefully, and we'll see where this goes, we're the ones cited as the source of that interesting thing so that people continue to trust us for the authoritative answer. That's why I don't believe that I think the companies like Disney and some of the other media companies that are blocking the LLM spiders are making a smart decision. I don't think they're making a smart decision at all, because all they're doing is ensuring that their answers aren't the answers that are going to be, they're going to rely on the rest of the internet to
provide the accuracy. It's very similar business case that we saw back in 1999 when it was like, should we let Google spider our websites? Well, yeah, if you want to be found.
Okay, so let me stop. Maybe I'm giving y'all a bit too much. I don't mean to give y'all too much, but I just want you to have different perspectives in terms of what ChatGPT represents, what AI represents, and how the various use cases, how important it is you add specificity to it, because if it's too general, then you're just out there. Any questions?
You're recording this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So you'll be able to go back and look at it.
So one more question.
Sure.
The recordings, as far as the recordings are concerned, do you send those to us?
Yep, I do.
Okay, because I think I've missed a couple of the recordings. I have some, but
what happens was I would send, like, say for instance, today and tomorrow's class, right? I mean, yesterday and today. I would go ahead after I finished tonight, I'd go ahead and download it, name it, and then I'd send it to you, and you'd hold it for until the next class, really, right? And then that way, if it was something you wanted to get out of it, notes, or you want to go back and listen to it, you could. But what I decided to do was that now those of y'all who are in the class that's paid for y'all class and all that, I'm just gonna send you the recordings, and then you will be able to hold on to them. And then over time, as you get better, or there may be something that was discussed in that particular class that you might want to go back to. And then the smart thing was, you might want to utilize ChatGPT to summarize the video.
oh,
The information in the video, you might want to use ChatGPT to summarize it. Because what'll happen as we be moving forward, you're gonna know how to do all these things. And so that's gonna reduce the amount of content that you keep. But the most important aspects of anything that has to do with learning something, you can summarize it and then have those notes as something that you would keep in perpetuity. And then you would be able to see how you've grown from when you first started looking at this, understanding it, and you'll see how much you've grown, because you'll compare what you knew at first to what you will know at a certain point. If that makes sense.
well, I know I've grown.
Oh yeah, I know you have. I can tell by the questions. You know, and we haven't even got deep into the other things yet. You know, like when we get to summarization, writing blog, customizable GPTs and all of that. But we'll be doing that as we moving forward. So what did you get out of the interviews, if anything?
Basically that it's not gonna be, it's still in the beta stages. It's still being tested. It's not it hasn't completely taken over. It hasn't taken on. Companies are still trying to figure out what to do with it. If anything, it's adding more jobs because they're trying to figure it out still. And then in that's where the engineers,
Prompt engineer.
Yes, yeah, the prompt engineers, that's where they come in. So it's still being felt out.
Okay, so you're absolutely right. So that's what I'm talking about when I say that there's a lot going on, but we still in the early adaptive phase of the wealth transfer.
Right.
Just like I remember very clearly when the internet first started taking hold, because I used to sell internet connectivity back in the day. Right. And so that whole thing happened from around 1996 to 2000 to 2001. That was the proliferation of the internet, where the internet just became everywhere. Like, remember the guy mentioned about websites and learning how to write HTML so you could create websites, and that's what came up with website designers. Well, you came up with website developers, and then you come up with website designers, because all website designers are not necessarily website developers. Developers is actually putting together your website from a technical standpoint. Developer and a designer primarily is concerned with the look of your website. So that's entirely two different positions that didn't exist prior to the internet. You know, before the internet, a company didn't have to have or was concerned with a website. They was doing all their marketing on the radio and on TV and in newspapers.
Newspapers, yep.
Right. So when the way I look at it, when you look at the old way of marketing versus the new way of marketing, the old, when you think about direct sales letters, right? They used to come to your house, they mail it to you. So the equation in this day is email.
Right.
When you talk about old newspapers and old magazines, what equates to that is blogs. Right. When you think about television and commercials on TV and all that, that equates to online
Facebook ads,
video
YouTube ads,
and all of that. You see what I'm saying? So the same things are done, they just done differently.
and more.
Yep. Can't help but be more, because now you have global reach because of global connectivity and accessibility on a global platform. And all platforms, for the most part, when you talk about the internet itself, is global, but not necessarily the platform may not be global, right? Because it may not have that reach. But when you're talking Amazon, Netflix, Apple TV, Roku, and your website, your .coms are global. Your website, which means your website can be global. Your certain platforms are global, like Amazon is pretty much global. Netflix is global. Roku is limited to the United States primarily. And then you research what platforms are where their availability. TikTok is global, Instagram, Facebook. You know what I mean?
How about the African diaspora?
Oh yeah, of course we global. African Diaspora Network TV, of course.
Yeah.
And we're about to expand even more with some mergers that's coming up. You know, so that's what's happening. So, are there any questions? Any other questions?
Not I, said the cat.
Huh?
Said not I, said the cat.
Okay. All right. Well, ain't a whole lot of people here tonight, so we can end a little early. That's good. All right. So if ain't no questions, then I'm gonna go ahead and end it here, and then I'll see y'all next week.
Yep, I'll be sending you something tonight. I just gotta give it to the bank, and then I'm gonna give it to you.
All right, bro. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Adiyb,
Yes, ma'am.
I had to step away.
I know, but I'm recording it anyway, so you good.
Okay.
All right. See y'all next week.
All right.
All right. But I'll
Good night.
I'll probably talk to y'all in between though.
All right, Adiyb. I
Yeah.
still need your help, sweetie.
All right, babe. Got you.
All right.
Yeah, I have a question for you as well. I'd like to talk to you,
All right.
pick your brain about. So,
just call me.
yes, sir.
All right. Peace.
All right, peace.
Hey, Jackie. I was trying to see if you